Jurassic World, Dominion's Colin Trevorrow compares the film's new Dino to a Batman villain. Many of the prominent, most badass dinosaurs in the Jurassic franchise can be compared to other famed antagonists of cinematic history. Roberta the T-Rex from Jurassic Park basically enjoys the same heel-to-hero arc that the Terminator's T-800 did, and in the space of one movie. Not to mention the first two Jurassic World films also sport Dino danger that echoes famed psychopaths and anti-heroes. Co-writer and director Colin Trevorrow has promised that tradition will continue in the upcoming movie Jurassic World, Dominion, as is compared the Giganotosaurus to one of Batman's most iconic villains. I'm absolutely into this comparison too, as Trevorrow claims that this new villain of genetic engineering is like the Joker himself. According to Colin Trevorrow, this is what we should expect. I wanted something that felt like the Joker. It just wants to watch the world burn. If you'll all allow me a moment, I'm going to go have a slight panic attack. As suggested above, the pure unhinged menace of the Joker, specifically Heath Ledger's variant from The Dark Knight, is now going to be allowed to roam a portion of the Earth once again. Only this time, it's in a body that is very tall, weighs a couple tons, and only knows concepts like angry and food. Well, isn't that just fantastic? Actually, it really is. After Jurassic World gave us a Hannibal Lecter-esque intelligence with the Indominus Rex, and Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom's brutal Indoraptor-possessed shades of Frankenstein's monster, this is a hell of a step forward in terms of dinosaur threats. Plus, if you remember the trailer for Jurassic World, Dominion, that claim of wanting to watch the world burn is more appropriate than ever. Towards the end of that first look at footage from the sixth film to bear the Jurassic name, we see the main cast of Jurassic World, Dominion facing down a massive, shadowy threat. With trees burning in what we now know to be named Biosin Valley, the Giganotosaurus stalks towards our frightened heroes, menacing all it stands before. Looks like one of my burning questions about Jurassic World 3's story has been answered, and this moment is not set on a Slasauna. It's even more intimidating when you take into account that this isn't a lab-created hybrid, holding true to the promise that Jurassic World, Dominion wouldn't feature such a creature. While director J.A. Bayona claimed that Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom wasn't a monster movie, Colin Trevorrow seems to have the total opposite in mind, at least when it comes to the Giganotosaurus in particular. With all of this in mind, let's get a little more hyped about this horrific menace. Nature's fury is upon us, and the Giganotosaurus will introduce a little anarchy to the system through its debut in Jurassic World, Dominion, which is scheduled for arrival in theaters June 10, 2022. How Channing Tatum got ripped for Lost City, according to the directors. Channing Tatum has been rocking an impressive build for years now, between his roles in the Jump Street and Magic Mike films. In his latest movie, The Lost City, he showed us he's still in crazy great shape. The romantic comedy saw Tatum sharing some great and funny chemistry with Sandra Bullock, whom he has no problem roasting. Well, do you wonder how the actor got ripped for The Lost City? The directors have recently shared a bit from his process. Of course, it should be noted that when actors are seen on screen with massive muscles, i.e. six-packs and such, it is the result of months of training and nutritionists often telling them exactly what to eat. In other words, looking hot is very much part of their job. But as Aaron and Adam may remember it, Channing Tatum was not super excited about his pick of food. In Adam Nay's words, "We just tortured him to get into shape on this movie. He worked so hard. Watching him eat his chicken and rice with just, no salt and a little bit of butter every day and the sad look on his face. But he would swim 2 miles in the ocean every day, so he'd be walking around the beach looking beautiful." Channing Tatum has to have a lot of self-control and restraint to look that good. While speaking to MTV UK, the directors recalled feeling like they had tortured the actor in order to look so smoking in The Lost City. But hey, if you were going to be across big screens around the world, you'd want to look good too. Tatum shows a lot of skin in The Lost City, especially in a particularly hilarious scene involving Sandra Bullock's character pulling leeches off of his rear end. Channing Tatum has shared that filming a scene involving nudity was a hell of a day too. That's right, he was asked to strip down just shortly after arriving to set. After nearly 5 years away from the big screen, as Tatum moved to voice over projects like Smallfoot and the Lego Movie 2, the second part, perhaps to focus more on fatherhood, the actor returned in a big way this year. Channing Tatum starred in Dog, which he co-directed in February, and The Lost City hit theaters a few weeks ago too. The Lost City was met with overall high praise from critics and audiences alike, but not everyone was into it. CinemaBlend's own Eric Eisenberg gave the movie a 2 out of 5 stars in his The Lost City review. This weekend, the romantic comedy is expected to remain in the box office top 5, per Box Office Pro, as more exciting 2022 movie releases, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Ambulance and Everything Everywhere All at Once, debut. Tatum is set to return for another Magic Mike movie next, so that's not the last of his chicken and rice meals. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 totally dominates Ambulance and Morbius at the box office. When Jeff Fowler's Sonic the Hedgehog hit theaters in early 2020, prior to the domestic arrival of COVID-19, it was instantly considered a hit. The video game movie earning $58 million in its opening weekend and easily stealing the #1 spot from Kathy Yang's Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. It instantly solidified the blockbuster as a franchise starter, and now, a little over 2 years later, the big screen series hit status has been confirmed, as Fowler's Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has done even better than its predecessor in its first 3 days. Given the way in which the COVID-19 pandemic has suppressed and depressed movie-going habits in the last 2 years, it's exciting to see a sequel do better than its pre-pandemic predecessor. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 earned a more positive response from critics when reviews are aggregated, the movie sporting a 67% score on Rotten Tomatoes, 4 points higher than the 2020 release. And now the movie can say it outgrossed the original in its opening weekend as well. As reported by The Numbers, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 made $71 million in its debut, which is the second biggest of 2022 thus far. Matt Reeves' The Batman made $134 million when it came out at the start of last month. It's the fourth substantial victory for Paramount Pictures in the calendar year, following their box office wins with Matt Bettinelli Alpin and Tyler Gillette's Scream, Jeff Tremayne's Jackass Forever, and Aaron and Adam Nay's The Lost City. The performance by Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has also shattered a box office record, though it's not all that surprising if you know the history. In 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog had the biggest opening weekend of any video game adaptation ever, and that held strong even a couple months ago when Ruben Fleischer's Uncharted had a strong opening weekend. Now Sonic the Hedgehog 2 holds claim to having the best start ever for a movie based on a video game, and we'll just have to wait and see if it can outgross the original, which made $319.7 million before the end of its theatrical run, and lay claim to being the biggest video game adaptation of all time. Having been released in a number of foreign territories at the end of last month, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has already made $70 million outside of the United States and total, which means that to date it has made $141 million worldwide. What turned out to be good news for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 turned out to be bad news for Michael Bay's Ambulance. The movie didn't cost nearly as much to make as a typical Bay production, $40 million, according to Polygon, but it also didn't draw the audience that the director usually gets. The $8.7 million that the film earned this past weekend is the weakest start any of his theatrically released features have had, despite the thriller getting a mostly positive response from critics. At the very least, the movie is getting some support from overseas, where it was released prior to its domestic debut. Including the money made from North America this weekend, Ambulance has thus far made $31.2 million worldwide. This means that it still has a chance to be a profitable venture. It just needs word of mouth and buzz to keep it in the top 10 in the weeks ahead. In last weekend's box office column, I specifically questioned what kind of legs we would see under Daniel Espinosa's Morbius, particularly given the fact that it was going to be facing some seriously stiff competition in its second Friday to Sunday. As it turns out, the comic book blockbuster's metaphorical lower limbs are reminiscent of the tiny infant ones that Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool grows back in David Leitch's Deadpool 2 after his body is cut in half. In short, the comic book movie didn't so much run in its second week as fall flat on its vampire face. It turns out that there was a lot of crossover between the audience for Morbius and for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and in the last 3 days they abandoned the former in favor of the latter. The $10.2 million made represents a catastrophic drop of 74% from weekend to weekend, and it's not exactly expected to bounce back in what remains of April. The would-be blockbuster has received some of the worst reviews of 2022, and while a base level of curiosity in what the adventure has to offer led the movie to a $39 million start, it's looking like its success is front-loaded. Looking ahead, the PG-13 Morbius is likely going to fade from the top 10 quickly. Not only does it look like audiences are going to be much more likely to double-dip Sonic 2 than the latest entry from Sony's Spider-Man universe, but there's even more family-friendly fare set to debut on the big screen in the next couple of weeks, including David Yates' Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore and Pierre Perifel's animated The Bad Guys. Morbius has made $112.8 million globally thus far, but that's not so great when you consider the reported $75 million budget, which doesn't include marketing or publicity costs, and note that Andy Serkis' Venom: Let There Be Carnage made $141.4 million domestically by the end of its second weekend in theaters. Arguably the most exciting movie now playing in theaters everywhere is Daniel's Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has earned near-unanimous praise from critics, and has spent the last few weeks crushing in limited release. Last weekend I highlighted the fact that the film was working with a stunning $26,631 per theater average. Now the multiverse-centric sci-fi feature is playing nationwide, and it continues to find curious audiences. Playing in over 1,200 new locations starting this past Friday, Everything Everywhere All at Once brought its domestic total up to $8.4 million, meaning that it is now in the top 20 of films theatrically released by A24. It's also easily among the best movies released by the studio. As I note in my review of the film for Cinema Blend, it's a genius piece of work, and if you haven't seen it already, now is the time. Coming up next weekend, the box office will be getting a shake-up with 2 new films in wide release: the aforementioned Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, which continues the big screen legacy of the Harry Potter franchise, and Rosalind Ross Father Stu, starring Mark Wahlberg and Jackie Weaver. Fantastic Beasts 3's Mads Mikkelsen shares thoughts on J.K. Rowling controversy. Fantastic Beasts 3, otherwise known as The Secrets of Dumbledore, is set to hit the 2022 movie release schedule this month. The movie's making, however, has been mired in setbacks and controversy, including COVID delays, Johnny Depp's exit as Grindelwald and Mads Mikkelsen's addition as the same character, and backlash toward J.K. Rowling online about her reported transgender insensitivity. Now that press is moving forward for the new Beasts movie, Mikkelsen was asked to share his thoughts on the matter. The newcomer in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore recently opened up about the upcoming movie, which means he was asked about a variety of topics, both on topic to and tangentially related to the wizarding world. One of those topics was the ongoing discourse and backlash from some fans online over previous J.K. Rowling tweets about the transgender community. Mads' input: He'd rather not open his mouth without feeling like he has all the facts, telling GQ. People treat it a little flippantly, like, isn't that a disgrace? And every time you ask somebody, you can't really figure out what she said. But if the reaction is that crazy, we have to be very careful that we know what we're talking about. I have a habit of not commenting on things that I don't know anything about, and I actually think that that would suit the entire world. Mads Mikkelsen is not the first person related to Fantastic Beasts who has shared thoughts following a series of tweets J.K. Rowling posted back in 2020. Eddie Redmayne commented about respect for transgender people, noting it remains a cultural imperative. Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe also said in a longer statement of support for the LGBTQIA+ community that transgender women are women. Emma Watson also spoke out about the transgender community, believing those within deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned. As celebrities spoke out, there was additional backlash online. The author of such works as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone here on this side of the pond, initially responded to a headline that had the words "people who menstruate" in it to insinuate that a short time ago that headline probably would have read women. She then responded to her initial comment, saying on Twitter, "If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth." In a separate tweet, the book and screenplay author also said, "I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it's hateful to say so." There are a full series of tweets on this topic that Rowling got into in June of 2020, and that can still be found on her social media account. J.K. Rowling then followed these comments up in a separate post about her reasons for speaking out on sex and gender issues, which again caused backlash online, with some follow-up tweets criticizing the author racking up thousands of likes. In the time since, Fantastic Beasts has moved on and readied for its big premiere this month, but the controversy has lingered. In the case of Mads Mikkelsen, it's worth noting he only came into the Fantastic Beasts franchise long after these events happened. Mikkelsen was signed on by Warner Brothers. After the franchise actor lost his famous libel case in the UK, and Johnny Depp ultimately stepped down from the role of Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. It was months after Rowling's online opinions were voiced that Mads joined the Fantastic Beasts cast on set for the first time. He's already having to respond a lot about taking over for Johnny Depp, and it seems like this other point is not something he's particularly keen to dive into. After delays, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore hits theaters in the US on April 15th.